Welcome into the ArtGibbs Sports Business Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Peter Sagan and his contract situation. He, of course, just signed with Team Total Energies. And we're going to talk about sort of how that came about, a little bit about the timeline, and just dive into all of that. So here we go. All right, so we're going to pro cycling, we're going to the pro tour, and we're going to Peter Sagan and his contract situation. Now, of course, Peter Sagan is 7-time green jersey winner, extremely likable, popular cyclist, probably the most popular in the peloton, at least, for now. He's, sort of towards the end of his career. And it became known last year, maybe even a little bit earlier, that Bora was not really interested in re-signing Sagan at these sort of numbers that he was currently being paid or anything really near that. So Sagan was on the market, basically. And what I'm going to do here is kind of just dive into a little bit of the timeline and what happened in that process. So Sagan, of course, is, when he was on board, was one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid cyclists, depending on the year. But then additionally, he had an entourage that had to go with him. This was according to L'Equipe, but it was really mentioned by many publications and probably leaked or pushed or released by Patrick Lefevre of Quickstep, who was the first to sort of look at Sagan. So the entourage that Sagan would come with, so he would have his own $5 million salary, and then he would come with an entourage of the following people. So we've got Daniel Oss, the Italian strongman cyclist, Peter Sagan's brother, Juraj Sagan, is a 4-time Slovakian national road race champion, Maciej Pagnar, 7-time Polish time trial champion, 2 mechanics, 2 soigneurs, and his press officer. Now, what happened in this situation? So, according to Cycling Weekly, Quickstep was kind of the first team here, and they were sort of had the first touch on Sagan. The way that came about, again, according to Cycling Weekly, was that the Czech Quickstep team owner, basically a majority shareholder, the billionaire Zdeněk Bakala, went on a bike ride with Specialized founder and CEO Mike Sinyard. And on that ride, it was brought up the idea of, potentially Sagan going to Quickstep. Sagan was already a Specialized athlete, riding Specialized bikes, and Quickstep was a Specialized team riding Specialized bikes. After that meeting, Sagan's agent, Giovanni Lombardi, reached out to Lefevre to broach this idea of Sagan coming to Quickstep. And according to Lefevre, he put the brakes on it very quickly. He said there was a lot of momentum behind it. He wanted to put the brakes on it, did not want to just rush in and pay this large amount because it looked on the outside like the pieces fit. And of course, as Johan Brunel said in the Move podcast, or in Lance's Move podcast, that Patrick Lefevre is a real boss, a big boss, and he's not going to just roll over because of momentum and pay somebody too much. He's not going to pay Cavendish too much, and he's not going to pay Sagan too much, just because of the name or because of the recent performance. So Lefevre basically put the brakes on that. And then the attention switched kind of to the other end of the spectrum. So you've got Quickstep, where they're a big team, fantastic results, great lead outs, great support in terms of the riders that would support Sagan on the road, the staff, all of that, top tier. As we saw in this year's tour as well, just top tier for many years, decades. And of course, one of the winningest teams, if not the winningest team, over that same time period. And the attention kind of shifted to the other end of the spectrum of these pro teams to some degree, to Team Total Energies, which used to be Total Direct Energy. And they were kind of the opposite. They raced in a lot of these races, but as far as the teams that raced in these races, they were, on the lower end of budget. They actually are not a World Tour team. They're a UCI Pro team. They wanted a UCI license. They were not sponsored by Specialized, lower budget, etc. But it's the kind of thing that an aging superstar like Sagan could bring a lot of sponsorship with him. He could bring a lot of attention with him. He could bring a lot of results with him that potentially would thrust Total Energy into the World Tour. So they might be willing to sort of pay this king's ransom to get Sagan onto their team. So again, and I'll just say here, this is a little note from a Cycling Tips article, but Team Total Energies, is a UCI pro team. Currently, they had, before Sagan, 10 riders signed for 2022, and they're not a World Tour team. Now, although they're not a World Tour team, they do get a lot of wildcard entries, the Flemish and Ardennes Classics, and of course the Tour de France, but they don't actually have an obligation in all of these. They're not actually automatic bids into the whole World Tour calendar, but they want to be. And so that's really where this ended up going. The complete opposite spectrum, where Total Energies was willing to pay this money, and they actually went back to their main sponsor and have worked with Specialized to get the money coming into the team to be able to fund Peter Sagan's salary going forward. So that's what they did. Sagan ended up signing with Total Energies for a 2-year contract. And in signing this 2-year contract, he actually brought Specialized and the kit manufacturer Sportful to Direct Energy as well. So he signed with Direct Energy. They came over as sponsors as well, bringing more money into Total Direct Energy as well, although they will have a large obligation in paying Peter Sagan's salary. And so Specialized will come over, and additionally, according to Cycling News, so Wheeler will go, Specialized will come in, and also the Ursus, which was making the components for Wheeler, will be replaced by Roval Components, which works with Specialized as well, and they will come over, Specialized, Roval, and the kit manufacturer. So they're bringing in more money. I believe they also went back to Total Energy to get some cash as well, some additional cash to pay directly for Sagan's salary. And again, it's just the question of, hey, if we pay this money for Sagan, are we going to be able to, what's that effect going to be on the team, on the brand, on getting the team into the World Tour? And so they've gone back and basically, knowing that they have this opportunity to get Sagan, basically went and got the funding to get it. And of course, it's starting to pay off already with these sponsors coming in to Team Total Energies with Sagan. And another note, Sam Bennett, who was on Quickstep, of course, Mark Cavendish kind of has now taken the mantle at Quickstep as far as the sprinter. Sam Bennett won the green jersey in 2020. He is now moving to Bora to sort of fill that role. And he actually, his main rival in 2020 was Peter Sagan, and he will now be on Bora to hunt for that green jersey again in the future, most likely competing with Sagan and Cavendish in doing so. So we'll see how it all plays out, but again, it'll be very interesting to see, Sagan competing against Sam Bennett in Bora colors and Sagan being in Team Total Energy colors. All right, well, that's just a little bit about the contract and about some of the detail on it. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks so much, and have a great day.